can see your screen now, so that's cool. Can you open up the PowerPoint?
Done.
Is that true?
No, he doesn't share his screen yet.
Share the screen.
Hold on.
Don't forget to mute.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, welcome everybody. This is CXO-cockpit, Master Series, Non-Financial Data in Financial Reporting. Let me introduce today's speakers. My name is Alfonso Colonino. I'm on the left of the screen currently. I have two colleagues with me, Jean-Pierre Quaidleg, also CXO-cockpit, and Jeroen de Soten, who is going to assist us with a demonstration today. So today you will hear myself, Jean-Pierre, the start of the presentation, and then Jeroen for the actual demonstration today. The session will last a maximum of 45 minutes. In the top of your screen, you should have a chat box, which I encourage you to ask any questions. We will take those questions right at the end of the session. So please type away, ask your questions at any stage, and I will pick them all up at the end of the session. I'm going to talk a little bit about non-financial data, specifically what that means. Then we're going to spend a little bit of time discussing CXO Cockpit and how we handle financial data and non-financial data. We will then spend some time in a live demonstration showing how to build, or how we've built reporting dashboards using financial and non-financial data, and how they can be used for taking better decisions within a business. And as I say, right at the end, we'll come back and take those questions that you've asked us to answer. So what are examples of non-financial data? Well, there's quite a list here. The list is obviously longer than this, but when we think about financial data, we're talking about the actuals data, the spend of the organization, the revenue that's generated in terms of the dollars, euros, sterling into your business. But lots of companies are currently addressing the non-financial aspect of managing performance within their business. And some of those relate to some of the items listed here. To corporate social responsibility, or CSR, as it's known, is actually becoming very high on the CFO's agenda in terms of those intangible aspects to the business. Some of those examples can be carbon footprint. So if you think about the airline industry, they're trying to offset the emissions that they have and they produce when transporting passengers across the globe. And they're equally trying to offset that by looking at other ways of sustainable approach to ensuring that forests are replenished and so on. We've got also listed there project information. So project information can be related to businesses that don't necessarily produce anything other than delivering projects. That can be consultancies, it can be research and development projects. And these are non-tangible pieces of information that organizations wish to capture. They need to know how many they're working on. They need to know when they're going to come to fruition. They may need to know some cost implications associated with those individual projects. So you can see that non-financial data can come in many, many different formats. If we think about customer service and feedback, collecting information related to customers in terms of service of a particular product that's been delivered to that customer, how those customers rate them are equally important to the executive level in the production of KPI indicators, because the more successful they are for their individual customers in creating value for their customers, it means that potentially they will increase the value back in terms of generating additional revenue. There are a couple of other examples listed here that organizations are currently thinking about adding non-financial data to their reporting process. So we need to think about combining non-financial data and financial together in any kind of reporting pack or corporate performance management reporting. And there was a recent report written by Ernst and Young. The report title was Driving Value by Combining Financial and Non-Financial Information. And there's a lovely quote that I have published on the screen here, which I'm going to read through because it's very interesting. Over the last 20 years, investor and stakeholder reporting expectations have evolved. In addition to the traditional financial performance measurements, companies are asked for more complete non-financial performance metrics and measurements. It then goes on to say leading businesses have responded by publishing sustainability reports, which include environmental, social, and governance data, in addition to financial disclosures. So you can see that organizations are taking non-financial data very, very important as part of their process. So what I'd like to do now is just take you through a traditional reporting process, thinking about bringing in data from the financial means and also non-financial means. So collecting financial data, generally, how is that done? So we can think about financial data being company consolidated, intercompany eliminations, forecast budget, actuals, accounts payable, receivable, etc. Then we have a whole host of new data that's coming in that's unstructured maybe. Financial data could be HR data, headcount data. There could be absence data. There could be now temporary headcount where you've brought in staff to support businesses because of absenteeism, holidays, or whatever that may be occurring within your business. Could be very seasonal. There could be non-financial data related to carbon footprint data, as I explained in my example related to the airline industry. The non-financial data could be coming in from customer service. How many calls have been made to customers? What feedback are we receiving? How are we performing against those KPI metrics? Non-financial data from project information could be coming in to the reporting process. And finally, non-financial data can be coming in from health and safety. If you think about the construction industry, then one of the key metrics is obviously a reduction in the number of incidents and accidents that take place, but they're generally a very project-driven organizations that have multiple projects, and therefore they track the number of hours that they have employees working on a project and wish to have that performance of low or zero rated incidents and accidents. So how are they performing so that they can actually present that back to their key stakeholders? So multiple sources of data generally extracted or pulled together into one source, into Excel, as we can see by this graphical representation. Somebody needs to do this job. Somebody needs to collect this information and make sense of it as part of the reporting process. Typically, we have two sources of information, as described in the previous slide, of data coming in from finance, financial data, and non-financial data, joined together into that Excel spreadsheet. Typically, then the report pack creation takes place, and this is where it becomes even more complex. If you think about stitching together all of those sources, in addition to that, an organization may have a hierarchy which is made up of multiple entities. So therefore, it's stitching together all of those entities at a group level, a regional level, maybe even a business unit level. It may be even then also overlaying that new data on top of the existing data from last month's reporting pack, and ensuring that that information is correct. So therefore, there's a consideration related to formula management. How are calculations done? Are all the columns added up correctly? Somebody needs to go through every single tab, maybe in an Excel spreadsheet, to make sure that that information is now correct. And then finally, I have a bullet point related to commentary collection, because numbers mean nothing unless we have some context around them. So why have accidents and incidents increased? Why have costs gone up? Why has revenue gone down by 3%? A human essentially needs to add some commentary. The narrative needs to be explained against that movement or variation. And we've seen even that being collected by email, separate Word documents or PowerPoint that's added and collected as part of that report pack creation. Again, I'm creating complex environment. But it's done. It's currently done by organizations under lots of time pressures and then distributed to the end recipients. Those are the recipients who are making decisions about the performance of the business. They need to be able to drill into the data. They can't because it's a static stack of paper. They wish to ask a question that's not answered as part of the commentary. They have no choice but to go back to the authors or possibly the business units before they can take any decisions. And that is a typical process that we hear resonate with many people within our audience, within our existing customers, and new prospects that we speak to on a regular basis. So what I wish to do now is I'm going to hand over to Jean-Pierre, who's going to take you through why CXO Cockpit is different and what can we do to improve those challenges that I've talked about and how we can combine non-financial data with financial data. So Jean-Pierre, if I'd like to just bring you on to the presentation.
Thank you very much, Alfonso. Prior to handing it over to Jeroen, who will show you some live examples on how to combine non-financial data with the financial KPIs, I'm briefly going to explain to you the true power of CXO Cockpit in general. So what Alfonso has explained previously on the previous slide is the traditional reporting process. Where CXO comes in, and we are extremely strong on connecting to certain source systems. So the first key asset that we see, Alfonso, can you go to the next slide, please? There's basically, in summary, it's three things quickly. It's we help customers eliminate Excel in the reporting process. We eliminate the use of paper, PDF, PowerPoint, and the cutting and pasting process to become to that. And we help customers to introduce a new digital reporting platform by either screen on your laptop or using a mobile device. So the next slide will explain the key strength of CXO Cockpit. And we are really focused on the finance office, so on the CFO office of our customers using.
Jean-Pierre, we just lost some of your voice there. We heard up to focusing on the Office of Finance, and we just lost a little bit of connectivity. If you could just take it from that point.
Thank you. So yes, so we're focusing on connecting to the systems that are the leading systems in the market space in the Office of Finance. So to SAP BBC or SAP BW or the Hyperion suite within the Oracle family, TM1 from IBM, Microsoft Cubes, and Tagetic and OneStream as new players in the audience. So the connectivity to those systems, that's a key asset of CXO Cockpit, because we are able to read the data and the metadata instantly from these market-leading systems. On top of that, and the theme of today's webinar is, of course, how we can also add additional information that is not stored traditionally in these EPM systems, but are relevant for management to look at in the same sort of environment. And we have developed what Jeroen is going to show you in the demo, what we call a data warehouse adapter, where we can load additional information, often from an Excel environment, into CXO Cockpit as well. The second key asset of our solution is that everything that in CXO Cockpit is a pre-built approach. So everything that you can see in the solution today, which Jeroen is going to briefly highlight in his demo, the collaboration piece, the storybook or the storytellings, the narratives, the security settings, the connectivity to all these systems that we just briefly discussed, the mobile enablement, the analysis capabilities, the graphs, the drill downs, everything that you see is standard in our product. So the solution is already to go by opening up the box. So there's no bespoke coding required to build our CXO Cockpit solution. And the calculation power is also something which is critical to the use of CXO Cockpit, because we can So that leading me to the next slide, and that's Alfonso. Can you click on the next slide, please? Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, it took some delay. So obviously, it's very important that we have gained.
Jean-Pierre, I'm really sorry,
Yes?
but your voice keeps just cutting out slightly. I'm not sure that I'm the only person, but I just heard you were talking about customers and then you disappeared. If maybe you could just take it from that point once again. Sorry about that.
Yeah, okay. So just to show the audience our global customer base, we've been doing this for 10 years. So we've gathered a lot of very interesting customers over the last 10 years, and we are extremely proud of servicing this community. And basically all of these customers, they had a traditional way of reporting from paper using Excel or SmartView reports and producing PowerPoints, books, etc. So most of the customers have that same background of coming from a paper-based reporting environment. So let's highlight a couple of our existing customers that have combined the financial traditional reporting with additional information from other sources. And one of the first examples I want to mention is AkzoNobel, a large chemical company in the Netherlands. They have recently added their forecast model, which is some very complex model that they have built based on statistics. And the outcome of that predictive analytics forecast model has been pushed back to CXO-cockpit in the reporting pack delivered from CXO-cockpit. So now they can see their actuals, their regular forecast coming from their underlying Hyperion system, but also the forecast number from this very complex externally driven predictive analytics model. Another example is Wimpelcom, a very large telecom organization with their headquarters in Amsterdam, and they load competitive information into CXO-cockpit. So that's market share information, share about churn, share about growth, all incredible important KPIs for a company being in the telephone and mobile business, so that they can see how they are performing versus their competitors. Another example is Randstad, a global job agency, also headquartered in the Netherlands. And they have what they call the organic growth KPI, which is extremely important for the management team to show in their regular reporting set. But the organic growth KPI is not part of the underlying EPM process. So with the data warehouse loader, we help Randstad load that additional data in their reports as well. And finally, a very interesting one is Friesland-Campina, a global dairy company that has a KPI that's strangely enough called the grazing cow KPI. And basically all the products that they produce are based on milk. So milk is their core product, and they basically add value to the milk product by making cheese or by making yogurt or any other product from milk. And it's very important to the outside world and to their customers that they show that part of their products are built on milk coming from cows that have been outside for 120 days minimum and 6 hours per day minimum, so that they get the label of a grazing cow, and that they can produce that label on top of the product that they sell in the stores. And the marketing or the management team of Friesland-Campina really wants to know how many products are built from that particular grazing cow environment. Other projects that are kicking off, so we see an increasing amount of customers using our additional non-financial KPI capability, is our latest customer BBDO in Germany, but also Facebook in the States is kicking off a project with external data. McDonald's in Germany is kicking off a project, and there are many more. So without further ado, I think we're going to just look at the solution itself and how we combine non-financial KPIs with information coming directly from one of the source systems that we connect to. So I'm going to hand it over to Jeroen. Oh no, I think Alfonso, you have a quick introduction for Jeroen, right?
Yes, thank you very much, Jean-Pierre. Let me just advance.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So, thank you very much, Jean-Pierre. I really love the Friesland Campina example of the grazing cows. I think that's one of my favorite non-financial data points and how to create value for an organization. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to set up a part of this presentation for Jeroen as part of the live example, the demonstration of CXO-cockpit, where we've created a dashboard or a couple of dashboards and a reporting pack, which is going to include financial and non-financial data. So specifically, what we've done is we've created 3 individual non-financial data points, headcount data, for 4 regions across our company that's inside CXO-cockpit. So we have a fictitious company called Comma Communications Inc., which has 4 individual regions below the group level. So Jeroen has added some headcount data. We're going to also add some sick days. So assuming that employees do have some sick days, and how does that impact upon the business and the performance related to sales, production, and administration. So that's going to be included as well. And then finally, we have some more non-financial data, which is health and safety related to incidents per region and per business area as well. And specifically, what Jeroen will do is do 2 things, essentially create a profit and loss dashboard where we're going to include that non-financial data. And then once a dashboard has been created, we have a wonderful concept which allows each dashboard to be added as a page into a storyboard, or as you can see here, we call storyboards what you would call reporting packs. So he will create the storyboard using the dashboards that he's already pre-created, and then he will share them with another user. So you can see how that whole process fits together when I hand over, which is exactly at this point. So Jeroen, if you're available, I'm going to, or at least you guys should be able to take control of the demonstration now. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Jeroen. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining. I would like to show you quickly how we are using CXO in a combination of financial and non-financial. Which is a standard report within CXO. This report shows several things. We make here, at the beginning, we make some point of view selections where you can set the point of view where you want to see your data on. So in this case, we see the year dimension set to 2016, the period to September. The view in this case will be periodic, and the entity is our mother company, Comma Communications Inc., just introduced by Alfonso. Then on the rows, you will see some financial data, which is basically the P&L. In this case, we want to add on this report. Later on, I will show you how to do that, but we want to add some headcounts, sickness days, and incidents. On the right side, you see now I've selected net sales over here. I see a trend of 12 months, how I performed in my last 12 months with my net sales. And I compare that, my actuals, I compare in this case to my previous period. I can also decide to look into the previous year, or or do that by budget. And then immediately the dashboard will refresh and pick up the data from the actuals and compares it to the budget. Then in the third column, you will see a variance. So you can see the variance calculation, and that you can change by to look at that percentage or absolute values. So in this case, I change it now to absolute values, and then you see the absolute values instead of the percentages. Then another thing, what this dashboard also can do is you can drill into the attached dimensions. So in this case, the net sales is for this company who is a telecom company who sells smartphones, computers, consumer electronics, and those kind of things. So I can see on the right side below my trend, I can see how my net sales is divided over my products. So I immediately can see how my actuals compared to my budget is performing for my 4 different products. I can also drill into the details of those, so I can even drill further. Maybe you are not really interested in this moment for your product division. You can also then divide it by entity, for example. And then I can see my 4 regions, how they perform for my net sales. If I now want to see it on another account, for example, your cost of goods sold, you just click on cost of goods sold, and then you get the data for that. So now you see the cost of goods sold over my different regions. Now I've created some HR data. I have that in an Excel. And now you see here I have a lot of numbers, FTEs in this case. This is my headcount. I also have my sickness days and my incidents. All data which is at this moment in an Excel sheet. What I then can do is I can copy this data because in this case it's not so much. So I can copy just by a simple copy and paste action from Excel into a specific CXO report. So I go back to CXO now, open my input report, and you will first see an empty screen. And now I can just paste in the numbers I took from my Excel sheet. I can save it into CXO and process the cube to make it visible in the reports. I have already done that, so I will not do that again now. Because now, since the data is available in CXO, I can now, on the report I just showed you, I can now add some other data from a different source. To do that, you have to be an admin within CXO. You can see that in this case, that I have access to the CXO Designer, which means I can edit and modify reports. So now I will go into the CXO Designer, and there we have several options. We can create new reports, we can modify existing reports, we can handle security, we can set formats, all things to maintain your CXO application, to maintain the reports, that can be done in the CXO Design. So now I will go into my first report that I want to modify, which is my profit and loss FTE details. And there you see this is based on the EPM Source, which is my main source system where my financial data is stored in. On the right side, I can do some general settings for the report. Since this is already a report that's in use, I don't have to do anything over there at this moment. I just want to enrich my account list with some accounts from a different source. So my all the accounts that are visible in the report for this moment. And you can see they are coming from the EPM source. To this list, I've added already a few different dimensions from another source. You can do that via edit list. And there you can decide from which source you want to pick up your dimensions. You click on edit. You see the account list, the account dimension is picked up from the EPM source. And if I scroll further down, I get my CRM source. And I have my account dimension and a few others I have attached to this one. Now I have, for my P&L, I have all financial accounts, but at the bottom, I have added a header which is called non-financial KPIs. You don't see that at the moment because I made those rows invisible for now. So now I will make them visible, and then you will see my non-financial KPIs coming as a title coming into the report. Now I add the headcount as well. And what you now will see is the headcount of the other source. So now I combine within one report the financial data from the EPM source and the headcount information from the CRM source. I added already a drill to this headcount, which is drilling into my different departments, so my administration, sales, and production. Now I can add some more accounts as agreed. I will add the sickness days. So I go into my account dimension, choose for sickness days. I'm going to have a total of that. And now you will see sickness days. You see a 0. If I hover over it, you see it's actually 80. This becomes of the format. The format is set in thousands. We can see on the bottom of the report, amounts are in thousands. Now I can change for a particular row, I can change the format, which I will do now. Like the headcount, that's also set to unchanged. And this format I will also set to unchanged. And then you will see the 0 becoming visible for 80 compared to my previous period where I had 78 sickness days. Now the title of the report doesn't look very good at the moment. So I click on my item label where I can set a title to make it a bit better. I just want the account name of sickness days, and then also that looks okay. Now in case you want to have a ratio of your sickness days, we can just add another row. I apply a simple formula. I have my formula option over here. And I will choose for the ratio functionality where I say sickness days for my headcount. I save it, and now I will see probably 0 again because it's a percentage. So I need to change the format into a default percentage format. Those formats you can set, in this case I already created quite some formats, but now we see there's 7.41%. The title says EBITDA, that's not really correct, so I will make it sick leave percentage. And now I can make some extra drilling on the sickness days. For example, I can drill into different. So if we want to see this, more details of the sickness days. For example, for the same as the headcounts, we divide it over the different departments. We have administration, sales, and the production department, and there you can drill into a different dimension for your sickness days. Now I can add some health and safety data as well, which were the incidents. So I just add another row into my list, choose for account incidents. Oh, I seem to have an interrupted connection. One moment, please. Yes, there we go again. This is set to 0. I have to. I will refresh the screen again. Yes, everything seems to work. The incidents, I also will adjust the title, so I untick the other dimensions to just show incidents. Make it also an unchanged format. And now we see we have for now 0 incidents. I can create also drills for more details on those incidents as well. I do it via a different way. I just used a dynamic drill. Now I will create a drill myself on the dimension. So now we can see if we have what kind of incidents we have. And we see we have actually some incidents. Incidents on the total account. So we can drill into the details. We have separated the incidents by minor, medium, and heavy, and you can see what kind of incidents you have. Now, maybe it's interesting to see in which plant of which region you have those incidents. So we are going to drill actually further into details. So I go to my drilled list I just created and add another drill into there. Maybe all these selection I'm now making are going a bit fast. If you want to have a better understanding of our CXO Designer, we can have a separate session where I can explain perfectly what to do and how it works exactly. So I create in a different dimension a further drill to see the detail per plant. So now we can drill into our incidents. For example, the heavy incidents are interesting to see. In the US we had two, in the East region we had one, and in the West region we had one. And to see which plant, it was plant East 1 in this case, the name of the plant. So that's how you can drill into different dimensions from your just by adding some Excel data. Now I like to show you, since I have created this list now, multi-source list, how easy it is to actually create an other report with just this existing list. I click on my new report button on the top, give the report a name, for example, FTE details. I select a standard template. We have a lot of standard templates. In this case, I will just do a simple multi-column report. Now you will see a message that is missing some columns and rows, which is correct, of course, because it's a new report and I didn't set anything. So I go to my just created to source list, profit and loss to source. Here you see the just created members. I use selected list. Then I go and add a column list, which is just a 12 period list with 12 months. These are all existing lists, and since you have existing list, now I have a separate report with those same accounts created. So you see here my head count, my sickness days, sick leave percentage, incidents, with all the drills available, and my report is created. I'll make it a bit better looking for the headers, and now we have a report. I just publish it in the menu, so it's available in the HR reporting. I will apply the admin group with access to it, and now I will go back to the CXO cockpit to actually review the work I just did and add it to a storyboard as said by Alfonso. So here's my FTE details report. I want to add this report to a storyboard. I have my storyboard menu over here. There I have created a monthly pack with a profit and loss report, which is just financial data with an agenda, and now I will add the two just created reports into that. I click on my add to storyboard button, select the storyboard where I want to add it to, and add the page. I will go to my other report I created, click on the add to storyboard button, add it to the monthly reporting pack, and I've added the page. If I now go back to my storyboard, I see instead of 2 reports, I see 4 reports. And now I want to have Jean-Pierre looking into this storyboard. So I'm going to share it with him, and then he can look into the storyboard. So I click on the share button. I add a user, Jean-Pierre, save the changes, and now this storyboard will be shared with Jean-Pierre. So what I will do, I go to a separate browser. I will log on with the username Jean-Pierre. So I'm the Jean-Pierre user now. And what I will see is I will see a notification on the right top, and there it says, Jeroen shared the storyboard monthly reporting pack with you. So I click on that report, and now I see the storyboard in my menu. I can now play the storyboard. So I click on play, I get a point of view selector, so I can select which point of view I want to run the storyboard in. I keep it on my default, which is 2016 in September. I play the storyboard, and what you will see, the storyboard starts playing. So it starts with my agenda. I can go to the next report via the toggle at the top. Then I get a P&L with just financial data. And the last two reports are the reports I just created with my financial data and non-financial data. And the last report. This is what I'd like to show today about CXO-cockpit. And thank you for your time. I'd like to give it back to Alfonso now.
Thank you very much, Jeroen. Very useful. There was a couple of times when your voice kept clipping, but I understand my voice was clipping a little bit too. So I hope the audience didn't suffer too much with some of that missed information and could keep up. So what I would like to do now is just go to some of the questions. So I'm just going to read some of those questions. If people could just give me a couple of moments. Okay, so do you need to have an IT background to build CXO dashboards, or can a financial controller do what you've done today? I think probably to Jeroen.
Myself, I was in the past, I was kind of controller. I worked as a consultant at EY. So I have a purely financial background and started to work more in IT for CXO nowadays. And I just learned it on the job. So it's perfectly doable for a controller.
Okay. Let me move to the next question. So with as per the example that you've just done, Jeroen, with the incident data you showed from Excel, what if that was stored in a relational table somewhere? Would you be able to map metadata from the financial data, probably around time periods, for example, and pull that data in from the source system as opposed to pulling it into Excel first?
Yeah, that's a bit more technical question. I don't know the exact details now, but what we can do is we can probably create something to pick up your data from the relational table, and that we don't need to first transport it to Excel and then get it into the data warehouse adapter. We can set up an automatic load job with that relational table. So that should be possible. But we probably have to develop something for that with our development team.
Okay. This is one for Jean-Pierre. So I noticed in the presentation you mentioned Oracle as a source system. Can you connect to Essbase?
Yes, that's the short answer. Essbase seems to be in popular demand this moment because we see a lot of our new customers coming from the Essbase platform. Traditionally, in the past, a lot of our customers are on the HFM environment. So I would say that a good deal of our customers that you saw on the slide are on HFM or on other consolidation engines. But Essbase, for sure, is a very, very good source for CXO because we can also connect directly to Essbase, which is very interesting for our customers. So that's a definite yes.
Okay, thanks, Jean-Pierre. I have a question. This is probably aimed towards Jeroen. Can the storyboard that you created be viewed offline?
Yes, that is possible. One thing you can do is you can print it to PDF. But then you lose the dynamic parts of the storyboard. What we also have is a so-called viewer. You can send to somebody a view who can look at that. Yeah, he still has to be online, but is not a user in CXO at that point. If you want to see it offline, you probably have to print it to PDF or PowerPoint.
Okay. Another question that's come in is somebody has said we have some competitive pricing data that we collect from an external agency. Can this be combined into a CXO dashboard? I guess that the answers to that is probably yes, because you can see all the different data points and non-financial data we can bring in. Jeroen, do you want to maybe add to that?
Yeah, the example given by Jean-Pierre of Wimpelcom, they bring competitor info. They just got it from some external source and bring it then into a CXO dashboard. So that is possible.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeroen. Jean-Pierre, this is one for you. I'm not sure that you mentioned in your presentation, but is CXO in the cloud or is it on-premise?
It can be both, actually. Lots of our customers like to have our solution on-premise because their existing EPM system is on-premise, because, well, still a lot of our customers want to have that close by, secure, on a system that they can manage. Lots of our customers also have their systems hosted by a third party. So for us, it really doesn't matter where the data resides, because as long as we can make a connection to the source that we need to connect to, whether it's a cloud-based source or an on-premise source, for us it's pretty indifferent. And on that note, for the Oracle folks in the room, we recently launched the PBCS connector as well, and that's of course the Oracle cloud-based planning solution.
Okay, thanks, Jean-Pierre. This one is probably for Jeroen. How long does it take to deploy CXO for a group level finance office with around 10 users?
To deploy CXO,
well, normally, this is a pretty. I'm just looking for a sort of a generic answer here that you can relate to the complete audience. A normal implementation of CXO-cockpit, it's divided in two steps. Whether the data warehouse adapter is involved, yes or no, you would normally also need to implement CXO on an EPM system. That would take 4 days for a proof of concept, and then an additional 6 days after the proof of concept to get that into production. That's just benchmark data. That 10 days includes the proof of concept, includes the training of the people so that they can maintain CXO-cockpit after that initial implementation themselves. Obviously, when the data warehouse adapter is involved, you need to make sure that the data is set up correctly, like Jeroen showed, copying it from Excel into a data load sheet in CXO. That takes some time to prepare. Sometimes you need to also map that data so that revenue is the same in the data that you load from the data warehouse adapter as the same as the information coming from your EPM system. So that does require some mapping. But I would say, Jeroen, if CXO is set up correctly, loading additional information, that's 2, 3, 4 days work?
Yeah, usually we see 3 days. So we have 1 day for the technical side to set up metadata, one other day to load the data, and then another day to create the reports. So 3 days, I would say.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. And to my audience, we've run out of time now. There are a couple of extra questions, but I'll probably send those out to the audience post the webinar closing. I'd like to thank Jean-Pierre for supporting me today, and for Jeroen for doing a great demonstration of how to combine non-financial data along with financial data in the wonderful CXO-cockpit solution. To our audience, thank you very much for joining today, this webinar series, and I hope to present to you on our next one, which will be very soon. Thank you very much, everybody, and goodbye.